Let's take a look at deploying sai-js. As you can see on this diagram, there are multiple services that are required. There are 3 instances of community solid server. There is a separate service that serves WebID documents. It's separated for security, so it's not easy to modify crucial information like IDC provider or authorization agent. There's also Oxygraph, which is a quad store, Postgres, which we use for key value store, and temporal server, which is used for durable execution, as well as temporal worker. On top of that, there's also a web UI for the authorization agent, and that's a separate service that is also run. So to deploy it, we can follow instructions in the README. So this is sai-js website, and we have an instruction to deploy it. We will need a VPS. For this demo, I will use a Hetzner VPS. We will need a DNS and a domain name. I have a burner domain name that will be expired next year, but it's sufficient for the demo, and I'm configuring it with a Cloudflare DNS. So let's start with VPS. I'm in Hetzner. I'm going to add a server. Let's take the ARM64, 8 gigs of RAM. Helsinki is fine. Linux distro doesn't matter, we will replace it with NixOS anyways. I have an IP address which I already configured with DNS, so it's resolving. It will add my SSH key, which will be needed, and we can call this VPS demo. Okay, let's go. Let's run a ping to see when it's ready. There are pretty much 3 steps besides creating the VPS and setting some secrets. There's a step to use NixOS Anywhere to install NixOS on this VPS, and then once we add few secrets and few configuration settings, we will use a NixOS switch to deploy it. Okay, so we have a server. Now what we can do, as you can see, there are a few configurations here, and one of them is, let's say, here. That's a configuration I copied from NixOS Anywhere, and it's just pre-configured for Hetzner ARM64 VPS systems, so we will run it to first install NixOS. Okay, let's do it. It will take a little while, so I will cut the video, and once it's installed, we'll come back. So the installation succeeded. We can check it by pinging again the VPS. It's responding. What we will need next, we configure the DNS. Again, I did it on the Cloudflare, since that's what I use for the name server for this domain. We did a step of installing NixOS. So now we will need to add some secrets and minimal configuration. To do that, we will need the public key of the VPS to encrypt those secrets. So to get them, we can SSH. We accept the key. Now we can exit. And we can get the elliptic curve key from the known hosts that was just added. We'll add it to demo deployment, and we have secrets. We can add it here. Okay, so now we have the secret again. is the one that we got from known hosts. We added to the secret snicks, which hnicks or ragenicks will use to encrypt the secrets. What we will need now are two N files that will be encrypted. One is the Cloudflare API token. So let's get that. And that's the command to use ragenicks to encrypt that secret. Oh, sorry, I need to be in the directory. Okay. Alright, and we will now need to create the API token on Cloudflare. Use the custom token, we can call it sai-demo. This token will be used by Caddy server to create Let's Encrypt certificates. Since we are using wildcards, it will need to use the DNS text record Acme challenge, and it will simply use a Caddy plugin for Cloudflare to set those challenges in DNS and obtain certificates automatically. We need zone read and zone DNS edit. We can set it to a specific zone and we can also restrict it to the IP address of the VPS. This way only the Caddy plugin from this machine will be able to use this token. Okay, let's continue. We can validate if it's as in the instructions, zone read and zone DNS edit. Zone read and DNS edit on the domain zone. Restriction for the IP address, it's matching. You can create the token, and of course all the secrets you see will be deleted by the time you see this video, so there's no problem with showing them to you. Okay, let's paste it here, and now we can just save, and we can see there is encrypted secret. It will be used as an end file for Caddy to use. And quick note, if you look at the configuration of your host, so I call this secret Cloudflare just to follow instructions from the Caddy plugin. If we look at the Cloudflare plugin for Caddy, it uses this end variable. That's why I called Cloudflare. If you use different DNS provider, you can just add specific plugin, and as you see in configuration, you just need to edit this part to use a different plugin for Caddy if you use different DNS provider. It's pretty straightforward. The only tricky part, you will need to find a way how to get the hash, but if you try to build it without it, NixOS will give you an error that there is a different hash than expected, and then you can just copy it, insert it here, and run it again to succeed this way. Okay, so we did that part. The next step, we don't need this anymore. The next step will be generating a web push keeper for push notifications, and a JSON web key that is used to sign tokens. It all goes into the auth-h file, which is the end file for the authorization service. So I have it prepared here, the end variables, and we can run the command again. Okay, the email, it's pretty straightforward. You can use any email that you would like any contact. If someone needs to contact because of spam or something, they can contact that email. We can just use an example one for here. Now we need to generate the Vapid keys. So that's a command. It's also in the README. If you look here, there's one command to generate the Vapid key and the JSON web key. So let's start with this one. We are adding the private key to the secret here. Okay, and now we will need to add the JSON web key. Again, we can copy it. So now we have all the secrets, we save it, and again, it's all encrypted, ready to be used. Now we are pretty much ready to deploy the current configuration. The last change you may want to do, excuse me, there's also the public key we need to copy over. This key will be needed when something wants to create a web push subscription. It has to provide it to the browser, so the notifications that are sent are authenticated with that server key. What you also will need to set is the domain name. In my example, it's this throwaway domain. And here, if you use something else than the Cloudflare for DNS, you will need to just follow the instructions of that plugin. But with that, we have everything we need. And now we can use this configuration here to deploy it. So we're using this switch command. You have it here. And we use a target host. For example, I'm recording this video on x86 machine with AMD CPU, and the VPS is ARM64. So there are different architectures. Because we say that the build is on the host, it will ensure that correct architecture is used. So we will run this command. And once again, this will take a little bit of time, so I will cut the video and we will finish once it's ready. Okay, so the updating change, as you can see, it shows that something failed to start, one of the systemd services. But usually it's not a problem if you just rerun the same command. It should succeed without a problem. And now we will see that given that Let's Encrypt challenges pass through in that time, we'll be able to see that deployment works. So let's give it a moment, double check the services. There we go. I just had to rerun it for the second time. And now we can open voila. So this is the web UI of the authorization agent. As you can see, it's on the HTTPS. Caddy took care of issuing certificates using the Cloudflare DNS plugin, and now you are ready to use your deployment. Enjoy!